Hello and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 205 at scavengerlife.com. You know what's funny, Jay?
What?
Someone wrote me a message today being like, I subscribe to you on YouTube, but I don't know what your blog is. Which I found hilarious because we say it all the time.
Scavenger Life?
Scavengerlife.com.
Yeah, it's okay. We don't
judge.
We understand if people are just finding us, it's a whole thing. And,
Yeah.
If you haven't been with us since the early days, it would probably be pretty confusing about what exactly we're doing.
Yeah, like who are you people?
Yeah, but basically what we are is we're full-time eBay sellers. We call ourselves trash elves.
And scavengers.
Because we're like a little elves going around, digging in the piles, trying to find the
valuables.
Yeah, the treasure that is in this country, especially in America, where there's just so much waste and abundance. You know, the one part of this is, we've been doing the podcast for 3 years now.
Oh my God,
we're working on 3
long?
years, yeah. But we've been doing our eBay store for 6 years. And, part of this is just, we've seen a lot of other people sell on eBay, and they burn out,
Yeah.
They do it for a while, and they burn out. We always hear these stories. We're like, oh, I was selling in 1999 or 2005, and then I just stopped, And we get that because the reality of it is that, you're doing this day in and day out to make a living, and if we are not constantly challenging ourselves or finding new ways to do things or finding new kind of cool things for us to find and sell, we would also burn out.
And get bored.
Yeah. So part of this podcast is to kind of document that experience, and what we wanted to do with trying to create a little community of other sellers who also are the same way, who want to do this. They don't want to work for someone else, but they don't want to hate working for themselves.
Right.
And
freedom.
So far, it's worked
for us. It's worked.
Some days it feels like we have a data entry job, but for the most part, we get pretty excited about doing this,
Yeah.
Another thing is, one reason why this is not like a how-to podcast, which it's new people ask us, like, why don't we talk about how to do things, is
right,
because we're always changing how we do things. So
that's a good
and
answer.
Those of you that have been listening to us for a long time, we change how we do things based on ideas that people give us, or if we hear of other people doing things better.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like our latest was, we were the kind of people that had a template in our listing, and we were firm and steady and strong in that conviction.
Yeah,
we loved our template.
I was very convinced that it was more professional and whatever.
But real quick, our template worked. I mean, we sold lots of things.
It wasn't a problem.
It was not a problem.
The selling was not a problem. What the problem was, the bottleneck of listing. It was taking me, and everyone will say no matter what, the bottleneck is listing, no matter what. But it took me so much longer to list, and I really didn't think it was that long until I started being able to list 60 things a day, which I did this week. There was one day where I was like, I listed 60 things. What?
And, and this is the thing. We don't have a problem changing.
Yeah.
For the most part. And it just happened, that change, it was just like it was an afternoon walk we took recently where we were like, why don't we just try it? And we did, and we loved it. So if we had done a whole how-to on how to list with a template, it would now be obsolete. All right, so that's a little spiel for anyone new. So welcome. All right, so this week, everyone on the blog is saying
it's slow.
How slow it is. And I get it, but my question is, how do we stop this madness? Because
stop the insanity.
It is like this every single year at this time.
Yeah. July 4th weekend.
It's just how it is. And I know some people maybe they haven't had a store long enough to have the experience, but many people have been around for at least a cycle or two.
Right.
And know, like,
summertime is slow.
Are slowish. And then Christmas time is when it's crazy. And that's just how it is. I mean, and it's not like that for just eBay stores. It's like that for
every retail store. Yep.
People who sell on Amazon.
Ask any retailer.
Walmart Corporation, like CEOs are like, why is it so slow in July? I mean, everyone knows this. So it's like people just complaining about how hot it is. It's like, yeah,
it's hot out. It's summer. It's hot. Yeah. No kidding. Like, that's what summer is. It's hot. And we live in Virginia, and people are like, it's so humid. Yeah. I'm like, you live in Virginia. Right. It's freaking humid.
So... But I get it. I think a lot of it is coming out of, I'm going to assume for some people that, you know, they're like, I need to make some money. You know, I have bills coming out at the end of the month, and I've sold, you know, 2 things all week.
Right.
Know? So I get it. I mean, it's not just that it's slow, it's that I need money.
Right.
I mean,
our answer to that is when the times are high, like the winter time,
right,
you gotta stock some of that away.
Right.
You know, you gotta put some of that money away.
Right. Treat your business like a 12-month business, right, not like a day-by-day it's business. So when Christmas time comes and, you know, I'm making boodles of cash, which you should do, make sure you save some of that.
So when July rolls around and you're like, I gotta pay my electric bill.
And then the other thing, you know? as we've said, and what we try and do is we just try and make our bills as small as possible.
Yes.
So if you're having trouble paying your bills because eBay is slow and you aren't making enough cash, another thing that you could do is to look at your bills that you have to pay and see, are there any bills I can cut out? Are there any
cut down?
Yeah. I mean, you know, we talked about how we change our phones.
Yes.
And we went from paying $200 a month where now we pay $50 a month.
On Ting.
Total.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
I mean, the other thing I've mentioned too, and this is like very common in like the life hacker world, that is just like all you have to do is call some of these companies.
Yes.
And say you want to pay less. And I know it sounds crazy, but it worked for us.
For our internet company.
I call our internet company every year.
It's hilarious.
It's even on my calendar. It's, you know, and I say, look, guys, I love you guys, but I'm thinking about switching.
Right.
What can you do for me? And the customer rep would be like, oh, we can bring it down by $20 a month for the next year. Which is a lot of money. I'm like, cool. And then
plus we have 2 houses, so we're like, we want it on both of them.
And so the only thing I have to do is make that call every year.
And it works.
And if you Google it, there's even scripts where they tell you exactly what to say to people. I love it.
I didn't know that. Yep. That's hilarious.
So that's the other thing. You can also do it for your credit card. You can do it for the rates that they charge you.
So I would think that you're like, I've been a customer for 2/5 years or however long. I would love a better rate, you know?
Yeah.
So that you've heard that works? Well, yeah. That's interesting. Something also that I was really nerdy about the other day, we were at a retail store, and these people were complaining about how high their electric bill was. And they actually had to shut down for like a week or so because they were like, we couldn't pay the electric bill. And yet, this is the deal. They had their door wide open and the AC cranking on all floors. I was like... Well, no wonder your electric bill was so high. I mean, I didn't say anything, but I was like, just pay attention to stuff like that. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
you know, and then the other thing is, and I mean, again, these are like long-term strategies, something we're working on. So, you know, many of us have debt. Most Americans have some kind of debt. At least have a mortgage, a car payment. Mortgage, all that stuff. It's like, try to pay that stuff off. Yeah. So that when the slow time comes, like,
you don't have
like
that
if
bill.
we didn't have the kind of debt we had, and our debt is mainly like home debt, like a mortgage. Like if we didn't have a mortgage, it's like, my God, we could just like cruise.
Oh man, I'd be like, I don't have to work today.
So we're working on paying that down. So when times are good, we pay that down.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing is, you know, when summer is slow like this, those of you that have been around for a while, you know, we always say, like, compare your numbers to its last year.
Right.
And just realize, like, it was the same last year, like it was.
It's almost like you could make a chart and just see the months.
Seriously.
And just, like, just see it every year.
You
it's
know,
just up
we
and
use
down.
GoDaddy. It's bookkeeping, which some other people do, and they actually have that. They have charts where you can just go back year by year, and you can just see what your sales were like.
Yeah, exactly. So that's helpful, so that you're not like totally freaked out.
But you know, like, okay, so someone's out there hearing me, and they're like, okay, great, all these things. Look, fine. In a week and a half, I have to pay this bill, or, you know, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah,
I mean, in that case, honestly, number one, your store probably doesn't have enough inventory to generate enough sales.
Right.
Like, our store has been slow.
Yeah.
Compared to, like, it's Christmas time. But we're still selling stuff.
Yeah.
But we've also bulked up our inventory so we can handle these kind of things.
Right, exactly.
You know, and if you're so new that this is all, you know, like, you're like, whoa, what's happening, you know, summertime is not the best time to, like, quit your job and
start
to try
an eBay
and start
business.
an eBay business
because...
you know, because of this.
Right.
Because
it's a slow retail.
You can't really hit the gates and just start selling like crazy. It's almost like you want to keep your job or to get a part-time job or get a temp job through the summertime while you're listing and building up at your store.
Yeah.
By the time, you know, it's about September, October is when sales really start to kick in.
Yeah.
Then you can quit that temp job if you want and really focus on eBay.
Right, exactly. But like we say, summertime is the time that you should be listing and putting stuff in your store.
Right.
Because then you have a bunch of stuff to sell during the holiday season.
Right.
So.
I mean, I think it took us a couple of cycles, but I realized that, you know, Christmas time, or like the Amazon people call it fourth quarter, is like a slingshot, you know? It's like if you like bulk up, you get a huge inventory going into like September.
Right.
Like, don't start to a list in September. Everything should be in your store by September. Right. And then it just sells like a crazy pipeline throughout the holiday season. So then by the time January and February comes and it starts to slow down, you've made all this cash that can then hold you over for this time of year.
Yep.
And then if you do these other strategies we talked about, something we've done, I mean, we always, every month, make more money than we spend from our eBay business. Because we've been able to balance always having enough things in our store, so we always make more money than what we pay out. Yeah, and then we've managed our bills where our bills are small enough to where we know our lowest month on eBay will always be more than our bills. Right. You know?
Okay, so basically, people need to manage their money properly in the summertime.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do our numbers for the week. And again, I think maybe because we're talking about slow sales and money and how do I quit my job and how do I pay my bills, I mean, this is why we do our numbers, you know? Yeah. We do it for ourselves, first off, because it's good for us to hear how our week went. So it's mystery. Because often, if we don't do our numbers, we think things happen that didn't happen, it's worse, it's better. You know, this is like reality.
A lot of times I think that it's usually worse. You know, I'm like, oh, nothing sold at all. And then we do the numbers. I'm like, oh, actually, that's much better than I thought. Like, I was distracted by doing other things and didn't, you know, think that we made that much money. But we did.
And doing the numbers week by week, you know, we can just see, like, it all kind of evens out. Like, you know, one slow week is... Then we'll have a really good week. And then if you even it out over the month, it's like, okay.
Right, exactly.
So
store number one.
So we sold 25 items and we made about $1,300.
That's pretty good for 25 items.
I mean, that for us, for our store, having almost 4,000 items is a slow week.
Right. 25 items is pretty low.
Right.
But part of it was because I was away and we had renters. We changed our handling time.
For 10 business days?
It was 10 business days because we just did not have access. So we think that helps slow things down.
So we didn't have any days where we didn't sell anything, but we had days where we sold like one thing or two things.
Ah, that's scary.
I mean, and for having a large inventory like we do, I mean, that feels slow. I mean, for people that have like 200, 300 items, and they're selling like 12 things, you're like, wait a second. You have I have 10 times more items in our store, and we're only selling twice as much as you.
Right.
I mean, shouldn't we be the ones freaking out?
Right.
But the thing is, though, is that, again, we know how much we need to make. We need to sell $100 a day.
Right, minimum.
To pay our bills.
Exactly.
So as long as we're hitting $100 a day, I mean, we're free and clear. And then anything after that is bonus.
So our average price sold was $50.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So even though we sold kind of relatively few items, our average price of item was high, And so, and again, that's another thing. People may be new to this. If your average price is like $12, I mean, that's going to be a tough journey for you trying to earn a living on $12 items,
And generally that just means a majority of your stuff is priced too low.
Yeah.
Or your stuff is not worth
either you're undervaluing items, or you're just picking items out that are not worth very much.
Yeah.
Like some people get really obsessed with filling their store with one single kind of item that just seems really easy to get, but it's worth a lot, and so that's tough. Buttons.
Kate said she bought a big box of buttons, and one of them sold for $100. So that's just all in the research.
Very true. And then, so I look back. We started posting our numbers last year, 2014. So our total sales last year was almost $2,000.
Wow.
So we did make more, but not that much more.
Yeah.
And we sold 38 items, and our average price was $52. So really,
similar. And probably last year on this week, we didn't have our handling time at 10 days, so.
Yep.
That's probably a big part of it. Now, store number 2, we have under 400 items, 386.
And just to be clear, we started this as an experiment. We call it our second store experiment.
Yeah. To start new and just see what it feels like to start new. And if we can almost double our income, because we felt like we hit a plateau on the other store where we have 4,000 items, just like you were saying. Some people sell just as many things and sell just as much with 1,000 items. Right. And we're like, how we have 4 times as much as you and we sell the same?
So I guess, there are many people on eBay that have a lot of conspiracy theories about eBay,
they're throttling.
Throttling stores. I don't know. Is it true? Is it not true? Well, having a second store like this would be the experiment,
Right.
But the other thing is okay, and if it proves somehow that there is throttling, okay, so then maybe a second store is just the way to get around it. So, eBay is a private business and they can do whatever they want. So instead of freaking out about what's happening, it's more about how do you get around it?
Yeah. So the cool thing is we sold 8 items in our other store for $322. That's cool.
Yeah.
And it was so funny, and you guys will see this on my video this week. We sold, the highest price sold was these little markers that you use to mark a golf. I guess people use them when they hit the ball and then it lands somewhere, they mark it so they can go from the... I have no idea. I've never played golf. I probably will never play golf in my life. But it was a lot of 11 from different US Open tournaments and stuff like that, and it sold for $60.
Yeah.
Just tiny little handful of things that we bought for $1 at this junky yard sale.
Yep.
That's a really cool sale.
And so our average price was about $40 in that store.
Love that average price, $40.
And we aren't listing anything different in the second store. It's the same exact stuff.
It's so funny.
Doing it the same way. Yeah. It's just under a different name. It almost doesn't even make sense. But
it's that whole idea of having it's parallel stores. It's nothing different. Same items, same prices, whatever. Same shipping, not free shipping. Like, we're not doing anything different, really. And just seeing if both stores can make the same amount of money, right?
I mean, it's like we said earlier, burnout is a very big problem if you're selling on eBay full time. Because it's endless. It's just like...
You can work all the time.
It's this hungry beast that we never get... It's finished, and that's why I think people burn out.
Never ending.
So that's why doing the second store, it's for us, it's just like a new experiment. It's like a new challenge.
Yeah, because honestly, like, I will tell you that this week, we had a renter all week. So we didn't have to clean the house. They didn't even message us. They had no problems. And I'm listing on eBay, and I'm just like, I am getting so bored. Like, I don't feel challenged. Although I was listing on the second store, and I was making some more lamps that people have heard me talk about. So I was like mixing it up like that. But I can see how people, if they're only doing eBay one store, it can get tedious, if you don't mix it up a little bit. So I totally hear that. Now, one thing about our second store that I noticed was I was listing a lot. And they upped my selling limits to 1,000 items, or almost 1,100 items, from, I think, 500. Like, they just doubled it. I didn't do anything.
Right.
It just was like, you can sell more.
Either that or $35,000 total of value of the items.
Right, exactly.
And so, there's a lot of people that start out new and they seem to complain about the
limits.
We've been listing pretty crazy, and we've never hit our limits.
I've never hit limits, and anytime I was like listing a lot and selling stuff and shipping it, they just up my limits automatically. So I don't know what the trigger point is for it to just automatically be like, oh.
Have you called it all?
I haven't called to ask because I just don't. I'm like,
well, I mean, there hasn't been a need to.
No, I haven't. I haven't had to call.
Yeah, I mean,
call to up the limits. No, it's just been automatic. So.
Yeah, I feel like eBay must have a system where as long as they see that you're actually selling stuff, and we've been selling stuff out the gate, and shipping on time and shipping properly, and people and buyers not complaining or returning things that
not yet,
but of course
it's inevitable.
But I feel like they must have a system where they must help you out.
Now that being said, it is interesting having 100% perfect feedback with no defects and no returns. It's a weird feeling because it feels like so pure. Like you're just waiting for someone to like give you a neutral or something, and you're like, I can see why new sellers get freaked out about that stuff because you have this like perfect,
neutrals, no negatives, no defects,
perfect. 100%. Like every customer's been super happy, and
it's funny for us because in our other store where we've been selling since 2008, I mean, we have. We always have defects of one kind or another.
It's just inevitable.
But we're underneath the 2%
percent. We're still top rated.
We always have, for us, we've always had some kind of negative or a neutral because it lasts for 12 months.
A year.
By the time it gets flushed out, we get another one. I mean, and it just happens just because that's just the way it is when you start selling a lot,
Yeah.
So... yeah.
It's just inevitable.
Right.
Number of items listed this week. So in our first store, our main big store, I listed 25 items, which were women's shoes because I didn't put shoes on the new store. And then the new store was like all this crazy miscellaneous, like most random stuff in the world. And I listed 75 items. One day it was 60. Like, I just sat down and I was like, I don't have anything else to do but sit here and listen to podcasts and list.
So for all the numbers we talk about, those are my favorite. It's numbers.
Number of items listed.
Because, in our business here, I'm the one that takes photos and you're the one that puts them up. So.
And what's amazing is we never thought that we would get caught up. Like this week, if I'm listing consistently, I will have no extra folders to list. Like you will take photos and I will list those the next day.
Right.
That has never,
Right.
ever happened.
I've always been able to always take more pictures of items than Ryan's been able to keep up with.
And I'm talking 50 folders.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of this year, I think I said on the podcast where I was like,
a new template.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I honestly never ever thought that would happen. So that's cool, because if I'm caught up, that means either I can help take pictures and make it go faster.
Ooh, I like that.
Or I can be doing other
Yeah.
things.
Ooh, I like that.
I don't know what those other things would be, but
I got some ideas.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
So things we sold this week, and this might be a little bit of a mix from last week, just because
because I was away.
we didn't do a podcast last week,
which is very rare for us.
Yeah. So but these are kind of interesting things. So we sold a trophy.
Yeah.
For about $20, and this is interesting because I at one time found a whole box about a year ago of trophies, just vintage,
random,
probably from the 70s or 80s, just like whatever.
They were mostly cheerleader trophies.
Yeah, and I got it for about $5, and for the whole box.
Right.
But they're so cool, wood base, actual metal.
And marble,
Yeah.
and just really like vintage. Like when you were a kid and you got one of those, it was the coolest thing ever.
And so we've been selling them for between $20 and $40.
Yeah,
and we've almost sold out of them. So
it took a while,
but it's one of those things. It was a trophy pipeline.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
people buy them, man, and they cost us almost nothing.
Right.
So it's those are fun. We also have some horse trophies and stuff, just really cool and funky, so I love those. Another thing we sold, which was a very big sale, was a Stetson beaver fur felt hat. It was a cowboy hat. I showed it in the video, and that sold for $200. I had best offer on it. They just bought it outright.
Yep.
Which sales like that, you got to look at your phone and be like, oh, that's a great sale.
Right.
So that was a good sale.
And, hats are difficult because, there's a lot of hats online that people can buy.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, they aren't really hot. They don't sell really, really fast. But
what, the cowboy hats or
yeah.
just hats in general?
Cowboy hats.
Cowboy hats, I would say.
in general,
I mean, hats in general, like, we do really, really well with hats.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't always sell, like, super fast. But I'll have weeks where I sell 3-4 hats. It's just like...
Yeah.
It's totally random, but they're good sellers. So the other high dollar sale, and this has a whole story behind it, was a pair of vintage Jack Purcell Converse shoes. I want to say we got them the same day we got those Nikes.
No. We absolutely we
did.
We went to a thrift store and we bought a bunch of shoes, and we bought these old Nike shoes and these old Converse shoes along with other ones together.
Yeah, just other random
for
shoes.
50 cents each.
Yeah.
And what happened was, I guess, is someone bought these 2 old pairs of tennis shoes back in the 70s and then put them in a closet, and then they got donated 35 years later.
And we got them.
We sold those old pair of Nikes a couple weeks ago for $300. And so we had these old Converse.
Right.
So what we learned was before it was Converse, it was Jack Purcell was a badminton player.
Right.
Which is
from
crazy.
The 30s.
Yeah. And so he was big into, like, he helped make these tennis shoes that would help him play badminton.
And this is before, like, there were sneakers.
Right.
Like, people didn't... In the 20s and 30s, there wasn't, like, regular casual sportswear. Like, people playing tennis and stuff wore, like, leather... wingtips and stuff, like
it's Bostonian.
Yeah, like it's just sneakers wasn't a thing. So this guy designed these, and he paired up with B.F. Goodrich originally, like in the 40s and 50s. You can see the Jack Purcells. They're called B.F. Goodrich Jack Purcells. And they were very, very popular. And then Converse bought them out in the 70s. Now, we had a pair of Converse.
Right.
So it wasn't super old, but they were still old.
But they were named Jack Purcell.
Jack Purcell, yeah.
I don't know if there's any of that style anymore. But
they do. They still make it.
They do? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we sold those Nikes for $300, and we put them up for $300. They sold immediately
in 20 minutes.
Within 20 minutes. So we talked about it on the podcast, and people were like, "Well, obviously you priced them wrong, so put it on auction."
Put it on auction.
So what we did was we put these Converse on for $599 make offer. And we had them up, and people were offering us $300, $300.
Always $300.
No one was giving us $300, and we would counter. And so then we were like, okay, let's do the experiment.
Do the auction.
Put them on auction.
So I put it on auction. Starting price $299. That was the starting price.
Because that was the lowest we wanted to go.
And that was the lowest offer we were getting. We're like, if someone's offering $300 out the gate.
If like 5 people are offering $300 out the gate, then obviously there's going to be a bidding war.
Right. 7-day auction. We end it on a Wednesday night at 11 o'clock East Coast time. We're doing all the right things. Not one person bid.
Right.
Not one person. 5 people after the auction ends sends me all these offers. I'll give you 180. I'll give you 200. I'm like, dudes, you could have, but they didn't want to pay 300.
So we put it back on Buy It Now for $599.
$599 make offer.
And we started getting offers again, and we accepted the very...
I think I got 10 offers.
And then we accepted the very first $300 offer, and then, okay.
We sold them for $300.
So, I don't know.
Again.
For us, it's just like that elusive bidding war that I can't remember the last time we've ever done an auction where there was just like a jump up and down, so excited that there's this bidding war. I don't remember the last time.
I think it's because you do the research.
Right.
And you price it high and you get offers, and we're like, okay, they're worth $300. And I should have just said $300, buy it now, the end.
And I get it. It was an experiment. It could have gone the other way. It was an experiment, but it just, auctions to us just always feel like a frustrating waste of time because it's always something I'm keeping an eye on. It's always like kind of taking up a little bit of my brain space because it is that bit of that gambling. It's like,
you're like all excited.
And then it's frustrating and disappointing when it doesn't work out. So,
well, it worked out in the end because we sold it to someone who wanted it for $300. That's the price we wanted, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we both had the exact same sentiment when it ended and no one bid. We were like, what a waste of time.
Right.
Like 7 days, I wasted my time. Like,
and we had to pay for that auction
it's
too.
Just,
so, I think just for us, and other people are different. Other people do full-time businesses. They only do auctions. It works for them. For us, what we like is consistency rather than more of like a kind of a gambling, like jackpot mentality where, you're waiting for the big jackpot auction. For us, it's just like we like to do our research, put strong prices, and then get just consistently good prices for everything.
Right.
Instead of like... getting underbid or getting opening bid on all these items and then every once in a while getting the big jackpot. We like consistency. It's good for my soul,
Yeah. So let's talk about customer issues.
Yeah, this was actually a pretty kind of like dramatic week for us in our store. Very dramatic.
Yeah, so, okay, we got another negative feedback. This is the second negative feedback in actually, I think, 2 weeks.
Right.
We got one the week before. And so let's talk about this feedback. So this guy bought something from us, and in the feedback he said, item doesn't work, tried to contact seller with no luck. So I look up his name. I'm like, did I get a message and not respond, which never happens. Nope. Have no messages from this guy.
And this guy has never bought anything before. We were the first person he's ever bought from.
On eBay.
So we were his only feedback, and we gave him positive feedback.
Right, so we gave him positive feedback when he paid, and I shipped it and whatever. So I'm like, he didn't open a case. He didn't, send us a single message. So I responded to the feedback. Jay wrote him a message like, if something's wrong, we'll give you a refund, we'll take a return. We've never gotten any messages from you, etc., etc. Which was really smart to do because eBay's going to look at that.
Yeah, whenever you call eBay about trying to get feedback taken off, they always want to see that you've made an effort to contact them, and then but this guy is crickets. I mean, there's nothing.
He didn't respond. Very weird. So let me just preface this next section in saying the feedback before that, the week before, it was a similar situation where the guy said something was wrong with this jacket we sent him and that we hadn't described it. We wrote to him immediately and we were like, please tell us what was wrong. We're glad to give you a refund, take a return, just show us what was wrong with it.
And, it feels very, it makes us sad because these are people that if they had a problem, we want to fix it. But instead of trying to fix the problem, they just don't contact us and leave us negative feedback, which doesn't make sense because if the item isn't working or doesn't match what they want,
don't they want their money back?
Why would they keep it?
Yeah, why would you just be like, oh, well, negative feedback, that makes me feel better. People do it. Okay, so those are the two feedbacks we have.
And we were ready in a way to kind of accept it, we were, or at least I was just like, what do you do? We have, the past 12 months, we have 1,100 positive feedbacks, and then we've had a couple of negative feedbacks, and all that you can do is make sure you've done the right thing. Make sure these negatives aren't telling us we're like doing something wrong in our business, and then it's move on.
Right.
So I was ready, but Ryan wasn't ready.
I was clearly not ready. So I called eBay, and I will try to keep this short. I called them 3 times. Every single time. And this is between both feedbacks. We hadn't gotten the feedback the first 2 times. The second feedback, the first 2 times I called, it was about the first feedback. So I'm calling, being like, look, I'm trying to contact these people. They've never messaged me. They've never opened a case. They've never told me what was wrong. I feel like I should get the feedback removed. All 3 times I was told no, right away. Nope, doesn't qualify. Finally, I call on like Wednesday or Thursday this week, and I get this rep who's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I totally see this one person never messaged you, and I see that you messaged them, that you're willing to give them their money back. I am going to remove that feedback. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. She was so nice. She was like, yep, I feel like you're totally justified. She removes it. And I'm like, I just have one more question, because I have a very similar feedback left by someone else last week, and it's a negative. Same thing. He said it was broken or whatever. It's a jacket. And I messaged him, and I said I would give him a refund, and he has never messaged me. And she was like, yep, you're right. Removed. Within like 10 minutes, I had both feedbacks removed. But it's only because I was persistent. I mean, how many other people would call 4 times and keep pleading the case like, I know I'm right.
And you know what? It wasn't about if you find someone in the Philippines versus someone in America.
Didn't matter. I had both.
It's customer rep. Is eBay has two different customer service operations, so they can be 20.
Yeah,
it's 4 hours.
Basically.
And Ryan talked to an American, and they were like, nope.
They said no.
And so it was a person in
the Philippines that actually was like, yep, I'll take them both off. I think there's no rhyme or reason between the call centers. I have had the same experience with both call centers, and I've called a lot, as you guys know.
But, I think the thing for us is we just learn not to get overly emotional about it. I mean, it sucks to get these bad feelings. It sucks that we have to do that kind of work of calling. But if it's our business and it's important, it's just something we got to do.
I mean, I really felt justified. I was just like, this is not fair if I'm trying to correct the problem and the buyers are not even responding and not even sending me one message. I don't think that's fair. So I got the right rep. They removed it.
So it's awesome.
I did a little dance. Yeah. I came over to the house and I was like, Jay, you're not going to believe this. Right. And then I did another little dance.
I didn't believe it.
I know. You were like, are you serious?
But you know what? honestly, I always had confidence that you were going to figure it out because this has happened time and time again. And it seems like it's a weird thing that eBay has set up where they
so weird.
Where they allow basically for brute force. Like
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's what I said. It's like when hackers like can hack into a system just by brute force, like your computer's just like trying every combination of password. That's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm like,
yeah.
number 4 says no, I'm calling again.
Yeah.
Like I'm just because I'm just like, I don't think it's fair.
Right.
So, moving on. One other issue I wanted to ask people about actually is there is a buyer returning a shirt because they said it wasn't quite the color gray that we said it was, which to me is insane. But my question is, I mean, should I be getting a defect for that? Because he's returning it as item not as described. And I'm like, I said it was gray, but it's not like the gray you wanted, which is what he says in his return.
But there's pictures too.
There's pictures, like all this stuff, right? So I've heard other people say, like, someone returned a sweater and she thought it was apple green, but it was more of like a whatever darker green or something, and the lady's like, that's crazy, you know.
Right.
But so I called eBay actually yesterday on July 4th, and it was weird because they actually answered. I was like, I thought it was a holiday, but they said just call back when it gets here. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I was curious to hear from other people if they got returns for color and what eBay says about that, because I've heard other people talk about it.
I have confidence that you're going to
You know I'm going to call 5 times. Yeah.
Okay, so what we did this past week.
Yes.
So what did we do as full-time eBay sellers to keep our business going?
Yeah.
Well, you've been making lamps.
Yeah, I've been making lamps, basically making light fixtures. I've been having fun making those. The first light fixture I made, I just like spray painted a pattern on it, and it sold within 7 days for over $100.
I mean, so basically what you've done is you're on Pinterest, like checking out these, it's women that are like
DIYers, yeah.
And I guess what you're doing is for the women that don't want to actually make their own, and you're like, I'll make it for you.
Exactly,
and sell it to you.
Exactly. Or if, like, I know a lot of people who are like basically kind of interior designer type people, and they need pieces to like round out what a room looks like. So if I can like help those people who are like, oh yeah, I need a light fixture for this like crazy room that's got this style, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Not like, I'll do the work for you. It's more of like a supplement to what they're doing. And plus, I just see stuff and I'm like, oh, that would look so cool if it were a lamp, you know?
That's a really nice way to put it. I think that there are ladies out there who are like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I don't want to take out the glue. I don't want to take out spray paint, because we actually have, in our backyard, there's like a whole area that looks like a redneck's little area with like cans of spray paint and like an old sheet with
oh god, it's really bad,
and like
and it keeps getting rained on, and I'm like, oh well.
So
but I am having a lot of fun, and so I listed 2 more lamps, and I'm hoping that they will sell.
And you know, it's for us is like, you know, I love the idea of Etsy, and I love the idea of people like making stuff and selling it.
Yeah.
We've just never really had very good experience with making stuff and selling it.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I made necklaces,
jewelry ones,
and God, I could not sell them to save my life. They were super cool, and I would have bought them if I had seen them somewhere. Like, that's awesome. But
we've made like a lip balm out of our beeswax.
Yeah, and actually, I will say we sold out of that.
Yeah,
but it took a long time. It wasn't like, oh, people are so excited about it.
I think we had like 5 of them, and we, you know.
I think it was more than that. I really think we had like 10.
But, you know, it didn't feel like anything we could actually build a business on.
Right, exactly.
It was just like a fun kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like a fun experiment.
You know.
But that's the cool thing, is you can do the experiment and be like, that's not working, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or I'm just going to do it for myself. Right. Like, I'm going to make myself jewelry. Fine, you know, and give it away as presents. But that's it.
So I had a bit of a story. So while you were gone, it's visiting It's your mom and sister.
Yes, which was very fun.
I went to an auction by myself.
That was really cute.
Yeah, and I got to experience what it's like for those of you that work solo.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, it's tough.
Yeah,
Like,
so why was it tough?
So I go to this auction, and it's like it's a hardware auction, or, it's an auction house. It was like a fairground, and they had 3 covered areas, and each of them were full of like of hardware stuff.
Like a hardware store.
Out of a hardware store that is being just gone out of business. So it's all like basically brand new stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, hardware store. Tubes of adhesive and doorknobs.
Good stuff.
I mean, a lot of it's new. A lot of it's kind of damaged because it's just been like bumped around during, getting shipped
moved
there.
around, yeah.
So they had 3 auctioneers going at one time.
Yeah.
And it was,
Wow.
So I had to kind of pick the tent I wanted to be under, and then it starts going, and it's all like in lots, like this whole box of adhesive or this whole box of doorknobs,
Yeah.
And I was getting good prices, like $10,
Right.
$5.
Right.
It was great.
And that's some good stuff, I mean.
The problem is that, so I'm buying this stuff and it's moving on, like it's a nonstop
fast.
train.
Yeah.
And so I'm like losing track of what I've bought. So I'm actually running and like grabbing my box and kind of putting it, I found like an open area and just start making a pile. And at these auctions, or at least in the country, people are pretty honest.
They're not going to take your
everyone
stuff.
kind of understands like these piles are like someone's stuff. Because other people have piles too. But then I would get, it's nervous because when my pile would get too big, I'm like, what happens if someone grabs that? So I would like leave the auction action.
Right.
And I'd have to carry stuff box by box to the truck.
Right.
And then I'd go back and jump back in and buy a bit more and build up a pile.
It's a lot.
And honestly, after about 2 hours of that, and it was going to go on for 8 hours. After 2 hours,
God.
I honestly got kind of bored,
Well, when we're at an auction together, what happens is, if I'm like bidding on box lots or we know the lots, I'm just staying there.
Right.
And you're like, I'm bringing this stuff out to the truck.
Right.
Which is great.
Right.
Like, now that I think about it, when
I'm
you
the
told me that.
muscle man.
Yeah, you're the muscle man. You're the mule. And I'm just like, all right, I'm bidding on stuff when
Right.
you're away, And so you have that kind of like dual, like you can have it going.
Right.
Yeah.
And plus, if you're keeping track of
Right, I write it down and just because I don't want to be like, we just spent $1,000.
Right.
Oops.
Right. The other thing is we normally don't go to these kind of auctions where it's like brand new stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I've always thought, well, maybe I'll go and buy all this brand new stuff and maybe we'll put it on Amazon.
Right.
And there were actually, because I got there early.
Yeah.
Like an hour and a half early. And, I'm sitting there, I always walk around and I'm trying to see what I'm interested in. And I saw 3 guys there that had their phones out as scanners.
Yeah.
And they had the Amazon app and they were scanning stuff. And one guy even had like a clipboard and he's like writing down the titles of things. He's writing down how much he thinks he can make for each thing. I mean, it was very, very open.
Yeah.
He was talking to other people about selling on Amazon. It's so interesting because that's not what we do.
Well, yeah. I was going to say what was funny is you were texting me because I was on the way to Boston. So I was like on the train going to the airport. And you were like, these guys are talking about how they hate selling on eBay, right?
Well, because like the guy who was doing the scanning was a younger guy, like my age, and these older guys were coming up to him, asking him, and they were like, "Oh, I hate PayPal, or I won't sell on eBay anymore."
Right.
And the guy scanning was like, "Yeah, it can be a pain in the ass." He was more ready to roll.
He's like, "I don't care."
With it,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to watch. And then when the auction started, this guy was very cool and collected, and when I could tell he was never overbidding.
Right.
He was just getting what he wanted. And some of the stuff I thought that I won, that I thought I'd be bidding against him, we realized why, because you couldn't put it on Amazon unless you were in certain categories or,
Because they were like, special cleaner. It was like
Right.
business and industrial, like
Right.
certain. We were like, oh, that's why he didn't. I mean, you can sell it on eBay, but
So, but that's also part of the reason why I was getting bored. Because if it was like an auction of like, an estate sale,
Right.
like, old, cool, rare, one of a kind,
weird
stuff,
Yeah.
I would have been there all day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have stopped.
You'd be like drinking the coffee.
It's just like I mean, we went down not even 2 rows of stuff, and I was just like, and there's like 5 more rows. I'm just like
3 more tents.
Like, how many
Jesus.
more boxes of like insulation wrap am I going to buy?
I will say this though. If we were redoing a house, I mean, there's some stuff that you bought that I'm like, let's keep that in case we do other projects, because we buy that stuff all the time. Like PL adhesive, like subfloor adhesive. When you're redoing a building, you're using that all the time. But it's hard because it's like you said, and I was listing a lot of this stuff on Amazon and eBay on which day? One of the days this week. And I kept being like, I'm so bored right now.
Right.
I'm dying. I'm so bored.
Why were you bored?
I think because a lot of the stuff, like you said, is not worth very much money unless you sell it as a lot on eBay.
Right.
So if I'm like, oh, this is worth $5 a bottle on Amazon. We have 10 bottles.
But, I mean, I spent $200 and I filled up almost the back of the truck. And I come home, I put it all on the porch, so I would get like a box of adhesive.
Right.
And, so each bottle of adhesive is like $5.
Right.
But, I got like 25 bottles.
Right.
For like, $5.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the money is made if you sell them all for $5. And you're like, $5, I'm going to make $125. But you have to sell each and every one of those.
Exactly.
And the more you bundle it, the less it's worth.
Right.
Because people
want a cheaper price.
Yeah.
And plus, like, that adhesive is super heavy, so people don't want to pay the shipping.
And plus, the reason, I mean, again, it's all good to experiment. The reason why we like to sell, vintage, one-of-a-kind stuff is that this stuff isn't made anymore. So, there's a value to it that won't ever go down just because there'll never be another one of those, But this kind of stuff is like, there are Chinese factories or American factories pumping this stuff out. There are bottles of adhesive just cranking out. Yeah. So really, what's this stuff worth?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
It's not worth that much stuff.
No, just as a side note, I think we will sell a lot of this stuff, and if I feel like we're not selling it, I think I'm going to bundle it. Like some of those things, I'll be like 10 bottles of natural cleaner. Yeah. And you know what? I bought stuff like that on eBay to clean the farmhouse. So people buy it. It's just you got to have the right price, the right shipping price, et cetera, et cetera.
It's one of those things. I feel like any of us could go out and scavenge almost anything and make a money on it. So it's not the problem of we aren't going to make its money on it. It's about, are we excited about doing this? And I'm like, I'm not excited about buying like construction material, like brand new.
I'm excited about using it if we have a construction project. But also I think it's a funny thing to say that too, because a lot of times people are like, you really have a luxury to be like, I'm not excited. Like a lot of people don't have the luxury. They're like, I have to do my job. I have to do it every day.
Yeah.
So that I can feed my family and put a roof over our heads. But I feel like when you work for yourself, you have to be interested in it, or you're going to go out and get an office job.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of going to a hardware auction every day and scanning it and selling it on Amazon for some people like us is like having an office job.
Now, there are people out there hearing us who probably sell on Amazon FBA, and they're like, you hit a gold mine.
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
And I can see that, so as we're putting stuff on Amazon, we're just doing it's merchant fulfilled. And the problem is like, we can't list some of the stuff because you have to have a professional account, which costs $40. We can't put it in some of the categories because you have to apply to the categories. Like we were actually doing it's research like, okay, should we just take the jump and start selling for real on Amazon? But we saw like some of it was like you have to have our own company website in order to get a professional or to...
Yeah, it was some like crazy. I'm sure Amazon people are going to be like, it's not that big a deal. But I was just like, dude, go through all that or just list it on eBay. Right. Like, I will do that right now.
So I'm glad Amazon works for some people. And, again, I can see, it sounds so seductive, like just send it all into their warehouses and then just money just starts showing up. You don't have to do anything. Like, God, it sounds so attractive. But then, like, so I follow Online Selling Experiment, you know.
Yeah, the blog.
Yeah. And Ryan, you know, started this. It's a guy over at this blog. He started this blog to talk about his Amazon FBA experiment.
Right. He's very open.
He's really cranked up his store. And I'll link to this post on the blog. But he did a post this past week where he said he was going to bed and got a message from Amazon saying his store was getting suspended. Like, now, shut down.
Tell me how much you said he grosses every month. God. You told me some insane crazy numbers.
I've got to fact check myself on this, but he's really ramped up. I think he says he's now selling about $100,000 worth
a month.
A month.
That's gross.
You know, like all the inventory, $100,000.
That is crazy money.
Yeah, I need to actually fact check that. But he's selling a lot, so when he's like, oh man,
yeah,
my store is getting shut down and I have employees in a warehouse and
credit card debt, like crazy credit cards you have to pay off.
I'm assuming that he's floating a lot of the stuff on the credit card. I'm not sure, but then he, you know, it's within a day he got his store back, and what it was, you know, he's selling so much stuff that there's one category of item that people were sending back to him. And he got flagged because basically, I guess this stuff had a defect, and he's getting too many people sending the stuff back. So Amazon was like, "Okay, we're gonna shut your store down because obviously you weren't managing your inventory well." And I realized, like, oh yeah, I didn't see this one kind of item that I had bought that you know had a problem, and so you know he's like, I need to, you know. It felt like his store was getting so big and he was selling so much stuff that he was having problems keeping track of things, and you know he's trying to figure out a way to do better at that.
Right. But how scary is that?
But that scares me about Amazon is that if you had if you had that much invested in like FBA, like you're giving Amazon a lot of power, you know.
Yeah, that was scary when you said that. I was like, what? Not to say eBay can't do that, but I feel like
our stores are much.
You can control it.
We're
more.
Selling like 200 things a month, like you know,
$100,000.
Like you know, he's selling like 5,000 items. You know, it's like
man.
You know, we kind of personally handle every single sale. You know, it's like,
and you know, a lot of people will say like, then you can't ramp it up as much, and I'm like. And my argument for that is I don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels out of control.
So that was one of the things that I did this week. But this week, what I've been doing is taking photos. And I talked about it last week, and I'll talk about it's next week. We have these bins of items. Yes. That are like the leftovers from auctions. Right. And from a thrift store.
But not the stuff we would give away.
No.
It's the stuff that we're like, this is cool, but we'll list it later.
Like, you know, when we did that video this past week, you know, there was like a pile of stuff that, you know, we had gotten while we were out scavenging. Right. Well, we always, you know, do the coolest stuff, the stuff we think we're going to make the most cash. Sometimes we'll like throw some stuff in a box of like, I don't want to deal with this right now. So 3 years later, we have 24 of these plastic bins of stuff we didn't want to deal with later. Well, I'm dealing with it now.
Yeah, you're dealing with it.
So, I mean, you know, the way I'm doing it is, you know, I'll bring in one of these plastic bins. Yeah. I'll put things out on the floor, and I take pictures of about 20 to 30 things at a time. Yeah. I'll do some research, write a title. Yeah. Description,
and that helps me list it super fast. Yeah, I mean that the work is pretty much done. It's just data entry.
Right. So it's going to take me another 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. To finish all of that. Right. And then those boxes will be done.
Oh, thank God. That means our front porch is cleared off.
Yeah, I mean, so it feels good to actually clean up. You know.
Yeah, it's a big job.
But, you know, there's probably going to be 400 to 600 items in here, you know? Yep.
It's a lot of stuff.
And, we're talking about it yesterday where, part of me is just like, it just feels like so much junk. But each individual item has some special quality to it, or else we wouldn't have kept it.
Right.
And the good thing is, like, last night, one of these things sold.
Yep.
These, like, wood...
Oh, trivets. Yeah, I mean,
you
it
know?
sounds like so silly, but they were new in the box teak trivets from the 70s or 80s, and they were super cool, and they totally sold.
Yeah,
and I just listed them.
$40.
Yeah, it's like $40. You're like, okay, this stuff is gonna sell. It's the bread and butter stuff, and like we always say, you put it in the pipeline.
But that is the interesting thing. We've been trying to, scavenge and list more higher dollar items, so we have to work less to make more cash. But now we're kind of going into our history, and a lot of these things I'm taking pictures of, some of it's only going to be worth $10, $15. I mean,
But you know what? Honestly, if you get a few of those sales a week, it helps pad out the numbers. I mean, I sold some, I forget what it was. It was like $10 for something, and you're like, I got that for nothing, and it's $10. Like, it barely cost me anything. So I tell people not to undervalue things or be putting things in their store that's under, $15. But sometimes you have those things, and you're like, you know what? I know someone's going to buy this. So
I guess you do have a choice of just to give it all away.
Yeah.
But, I say some of it's worth $10 or $15. Some of it's also worth $40+ dollars.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's just kind of all
those
over
little
the place.
golf things, whatever, golf markers, $60 later.
Yep.
Like, that just paid my phone bill.
Okay, and then just another thing we did this week, and I just think it's something we should be proud of. So we paid, it was the end of the month.
Yes.
And we paid another $2,000 towards our debt.
Yes, to one of our loans.
So we're starting this now where every month we're trying to put an extra payment towards one of our loans. We're basically
We did it last month.
Yeah, we're basically doing the snowball technique where you take an extra payment and throw it at debt.
Right.
It's one of those loans. As soon as that loan is paid off, you take off that, you do the extra payment plus it's whatever that loan payment was, and put it towards another one, and then each one gets bigger.
That's really smart.
Because at least my goal is, in 4 years, we'll be totally debt free. That's what I would like.
Yeah, and it sounds crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, according to its numbers.
Yeah, we did the numbers.
If we keep doing $2,000 extra a month.
Yeah, we did the numbers, and
that kills all of our debt in 4 years, and that's our home mortgage, those pieces of land we bought.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Your student loan.
Oh, kill me. Yeah, exactly.
Every debt we own, you know. Yep. And so that way, by the time you're maybe not even 40,
hopefully,
we'll own our homes, our rental property, and 2 pieces of land outright, and we'll have no debt.
Yep.
Unless we buy something else.
Oh no! Don't say that. Well, that's a whole other story.
Yeah. So real quick, we'll give a quick update because people seem interested in this piece of a rental property we have. We have a vacation home that our eBay profits helped us build or helped us fix up.
Yes.
So we had 5 nights this week were
rented,
by a single family.
Which is awesome.
Yep. So they paid us about $1,000.
Jesus. Yeah, so, that's great.
And it's like you said, like halfway through the week, you were like, wait, there are people in our house. Like, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, like I felt all bored, which is really like a crazy thing to feel. But, you know, I'm used to being like, do the laundry, do the towels. Like, gotta get it ready. And I'm like, I have nothing to do but eBay. Like,
yeah, so we give people deals if they rent for a whole week.
Right.
So, you know, these people are rented for a whole week. They got a deal, and it just makes it easier.
Yeah, it's great.
It's for us.
So July is very, very, very booked.
Yep. So we only have, so we have 23 nights booked.
Right.
And so we have 4 more nights that we could book.
Right.
This month, and we're really trying to book that. And if so, I mean, we could be making almost $5,000 this month off of our rental.
Right. So what's interesting is when eBay is slow, the rental is high because it's the summer season for us. So it's kind of a cool, like, back and forth.
That was definitely, one of the strategies we came up with was to find another business that could balance out our eBay sales. So when eBay's slow, we have another business.
So that's helpful. So that's why we've been kind of mellow about a slow week. We're like, But it only took us like 3 years and $80,000 to do that. Right. You know what I mean? It's not like
definitely long-term strategies.
So it's nice that this is finally happening. You know, it's funny for you to be like, we're going to make $5,000. I'm like, geez, should we be even saying that on a podcast? But it's like, that's what we work towards. That's what all our eBay money went towards. So now it's paying off. Right. So that's good.
And then when a winter time comes, when people don't book vacation homes around us, our eBay stores should be cranking because it's the holidays. So
exactly.
I don't know. That's good for us.
Yeah.
And we are having 2 trash elves.
Yes.
2 separate people who are renting our
place that know us from the podcast.
Yep. Each of them messaged us and said, "Can I get the trash elf discount?"
We said, "Of course you can." So discounts all around. So it'll be very
interesting to meet them. It's this month.
Yeah, that's really fun.
We look forward to it.
News. I feel like that's like, remember on Sesame Street how they had like the news? Yeah. It reminds me of that.
So we just like to mention some things that people either send us links or we read things online about stuff.
So there was this marketplace started by Alibaba called 11 Main.
Yep.
We had opened an 11 Main account and it was so tedious and difficult to get our listings on there that we gave up.
They were supposed to be the eBay killer. Everyone complains about eBay, but you know what? No one can so far, And again, we've said it's before, like, we have no specific love for eBay. They just seem to be the one that works,
They're the biggest marketplace that people turn to, besides Amazon, but Amazon is
the biggest flea market.
Different.
Yeah, so we tried to put ourselves on 11 Main, and they actually gave us... They had a tool where we could import all of our eBay store.
Right.
So that's awesome. But then they only accepted 3 of our listings because they said our other ones weren't up to their standards.
3 out of 3,000.
Right. So we were just like, whatever.
Yeah, I was like, forget it. And then they would call me. Oh, I had to block their number.
6 months later... Then they started calling us, like, why don't you put yourself on? We were like, forget you guys.
Yeah, and so the news is that Alibaba sold 11 Main. Right. They built it, and then they sold it.
They're that big Chinese marketplace, like over in China. They're the big online...
wholesaler, right?
A retailer there, yeah.
Okay, retailer.
Wholesaler, yeah. And trying to sell things to the Chinese market. So that was their way, and everyone was thinking they were going to, have their might and... a muscle and break into the market.
They didn't do it.
So I'll put a link on there. That was interesting.
Okay, so a lot of people probably got this email along with me. PayPal services update email, which is kind of important because PayPal, I think, has separated from eBay. I thought it was happening this month.
They're going to soon or something.
Soon, okay. I thought it was this month. So this was an interesting little quote that was in there that I think people were freaking out about. But what they said was, once PayPal is an independent company, buyers will have the opportunity to raise a claim with PayPal after they've opened a claim with eBay. They can do this before a decision has been made by eBay or if they aren't satisfied with the decision made by an eBay claim. Obviously, that sounds ridiculous.
Plus, I think they're able to do a PayPal claim for up to 6 months or something.
Yeah, it's 180 days.
Yeah. So,
I mean...
look, obviously, you're like, that's not fun. That's not going to be a good thing. But we talked about it on the blog. I mean, our answer to that is just... most people that buy things from us want to keep it. They buy the item because they want the item. They aren't trying to play some game where they're, buying it and then, let's see how I can make this person's life, a big mess.
Yeah.
I think of... all the things we've sold on eBay, we've maybe had 3 chargebacks or 3 PayPal cases.
And I've always gotten my money.
And we've won every single one of those because, we can prove it got delivered.
Right.
If someone wants to return an item, they should just they can return it through eBay.
Right.
And we'll take a return. The only reason why I would think they would open a case in PayPal is that if, we don't take the its return, if we fight them and they're like, no, I'm going to go around you.
But like we've always said, there's no way to fight a return really in eBay. Like, people open the return and they return it.
And, again, what if once a year there's just some crazy person who 6 months later wants to return an item? I mean, okay, just return. I don't know.
Yeah,
what are you going to do about it? So
we'll see. I feel like people are freaking out over this, but I think it's not going to be that. It's like when people freaked out about hassle-free returns.
Right.
Like, everybody's going to misuse this system.
You know what? I freaked out about that.
We did.
I thought if it's hassle-free and people don't have to talk to us, that they're just going to be returning stuff, saying it's our fault, and we're going to have to hit with all this shipping costs. I think we've had maybe under 10 items actually sent back to us because we did something, because they said we did something
definitely
wrong.
Under 10.
Most of our its returns, 99% of them.
And a lot of those returns were people doing it by accident. They're like, oh, I didn't mean to say it was your fault. And I would call eBay and get the defect removed.
So I think it's like Kate said on the blog. I mean, I'm sure PayPal has gamed all of its out, and they just see that them having this very generous return policy really just builds confidence in the buyer. And
for them to want to use PayPal.
And they know that people aren't really going to use that. Because what kind of crazy person has it on it for 6 months and 6 months is they're like, I don't want this thing anymore. I mean...
there certainly might be those people.
I think it's more of an exception than a rule.
Right. So my thinking too is... So if eBay and PayPal are going to be separate companies as well, are there going to be other payment methods that are going to become popular on eBay? Because now it's kind of just a monopoly. It's like you use eBay, you use PayPal. The end. There's not really much wiggle room. So what kinds of things are going to pop up that people are going to use and maybe like better? I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
It would be interesting if eBay no longer has a loyalty to PayPal,
because
and
it's a
they
different
accept
company.
Google Payments or Vendio,
Amazon Payments. That sounds crazy.
Square, or whatever.
Right.
It could be Amazon Payments, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't care. So that'll be interesting to see, I think, in the next year. So there was also another email from Amazon about holiday toy sales. And what I thought was interesting was they were very specific on the rules. Now, people have talked about this before. I don't do FBA and I don't sell toys, so I do not care. But what was interesting is a lot of people talk about selling plush, selling stuff through Amazon, and they were very specific on their rules. You have to have an account before September. You can't just be a new account holder. They're holding people, to these rules and standards for holiday selling. Okay, your first sale on Amazon must occur prior to September 18th of this year of any kind. You can't just start an account. You must process and ship at least 25 orders from September to October in anything. So it's that's some serious rules, because a lot of people do, like we said, fourth quarter retail arbitrage, at Target. They'll just buy every frozen toy. So I think they're trying to avoid that happening, new people just jumping on the bandwagon. So
I don't know how they're able to store all the stuff that people send them. I mean, there must be...
How do they do it?
I guess they just have huge warehouses.
They do have huge warehouses.
We obviously aren't big fans of Amazon, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work for people. Some people make a lot of money doing it and they really enjoy it. I think it's just like anything. I'm sure if people heard us talk about eBay, there's lots of rules in eBay too.
Sure.
It's just, I guess, for us, it's just pick one,
Pick one and do it.
Or I guess you can try and do both. We've just found if you focus on one platform and learn all their rules and jump through all the hoops through either platform, you're probably going to be very good and successful. I guess I just wish that FBA was a little friendlier because, we might be willing to try it, but...
So many rules. I mean, there are really...
It just doesn't work for us.
It's rules I don't want to have to think about.
Yeah.
I just want to know the eBay rules.
Yeah, those are the only rules. It's
like I can only have one set of rules.
And then I noticed if I go to our performance dashboard.
Yeah, the seller performance dashboard. Now that's different than my seller dashboard.
Well, there's a seller dashboard, and then on that dashboard, there's it's performance page that shows you like, are you top rated seller?
Right.
Like, how often are you shipping? And what are your defects? And I'll put a link to it on the blog.
Yeah.
If you click that link and you see it's your performance, my page is basically
it's blank. I know. I just clicked on it.
I mean, like there's no numbers, and to me, it looks like they're rolling out a new.
It must be
a system. Someone had mentioned that, but it's so weird. eBay always does stuff like this. Like, they don't really have like a notice on the page. Like, this is
on its way.
Wait till August 1st.
It's just blank.
It's just blank. So
You're like,
no.
My performance doesn't exist. Yeah, I don't know, but
I've been noticing that with eBay, there have been these like little small changes here and there, like style wise and.
Yes.
Different things happening to the site, so it's good.
No, I see some good things. Like I think we mentioned this before, where if you're signed in and you're on a page and an offer comes in, a little pop-up will be like, "You just got an offer."
Right.
That's awesome. That's so cool. That should be normal.
Like it's starting to actually feel like a modern website versus like a site from 1999. Okay, those things we learned in the comments.
Yes.
First off, I want to say, it was like a couple weeks ago, our blog hit over 1 million page of views,
Of all time.
Of all
Not
time.
like this month.
No, just of all time. Our website is not that popular.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's cool. 1 million? That's awesome.
1 million page views.
Yay.
I'm probably about, 400,000 of those.
I don't think they track our IP address. I think I make it so it doesn't track us.
So we started in 2013, and I can remember there was... probably the good first 12 months, we were maybe getting 1 to 3 comments, and I was probably 2 of those comments.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how we've built up a nice little group of people that I always enjoy coming to talk to, even though I know I can come off as an angry blowhard. That's just my style. That's my blog style.
You're like
blog blowhard,
You're like a strict school marm with a ruler.
Well, it's like I'm the bad guy, and so I give other people the opportunity to be the good guy. Like there's always got to be good cop, bad cop. I will always be the bad cop.
Oh, trust me, I know.
And I started this when you were gone. I started because I did this a while ago.
You did this for a while,
and then we stopped doing it. But I'll start doing it again if people enjoy it. I'm starting to do an open thread every week.
Yeah, on Fridays.
I think on Fridays I'll do it. So I'll just put up a blog post.
Yeah.
With just so people can talk.
Just talk. People want to talk to each other.
If people want to ask about something, they can ask it.
Yeah.
So it's not...
You're allowing people to...
And I won't harass them because it's not the right question.
Okay. I just want to qualify that because I'm telling you, we get so many questions about what to buy. And there have been people who are like, why are you getting so mad about that? It's like, I can't say it enough. Like, we make a video every week. We talk about it all the time. It's just one of those questions where you're like, there's so much information out there. It's different for everybody.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where I guess any online site can start to actually become bad when it gets too popular. And it's not that we're becoming too popular, but I'm always afraid of that point where it stops feeling kind of intimate, where like people actually are kind of knowing each other and taking time to like learn from each other.
Right.
Where it's just it's kind of just like a free, it's for all, just everyone's anonymous, everyone's just like talking about whatever they want without really helping each other. So.
Right, exactly.
But it's just my own fear. So Mike in Southern California, he pointed out that eBay keeps continuing with hiding the description of the item behind a button.
Yeah, it's weird.
And I noticed that too. There was one day, it's this week, where all of our listings, everything was hidden. Like you had to actually click a button and then it showed you what the
It was just part of the day, though. That was what was weird about it.
And they did this several months ago too, and then it also had gone away. So I don't know if that's going to be permanent. There was no way to say, like, I like this, I don't like this.
Because before you could do that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like, why even have the description if you're going to hide it anyway?
Well,
you know?
I mean, I can understand the argument of like, well, on mobile sites, people don't want to have like all this text and all this stuff. They just want to be, but I mean, websites are smart. It should be able to identify if you're on a phone or a tablet.
Right.
It should show the info one way.
Right.
And if it's on a computer, you have a larger screen and you can handle everything all at once.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
So we saw it too. Mike was a little bit like, did everyone see that or was it just me? And we're like, no, we saw it.
So anyway, it's probably another good reason why we've dropped our template, just so
for mobile.
For mobile.
Because when you're on mobile, you just want to read the text and the photos are up top and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So there was a cool comment on the blog where someone named Jamie said, if someone told me a year ago that I could take $8 and within 24 hours turn it into $50, I would have told them they are crazy and you must be selling drugs. But no, it's selling old vintage hats on eBay, and you can call me crazy.
Yep.
So what was interesting is another person answered, and they said, you did all the legwork. People who buy vintage know this and reward you for your time. I call this Vintacycle.
Yeah,
which is a cool,
like vintage cycle or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's and we like that term, that idea that's true. Like that's what makes doing vintage and kind of old objects online work, because people are really paying you for the work we all put in of finding these items
and making them available to the world, because they would have been thrown away mostly.
Yeah, because these items are not made anymore. The fact that you find it in someone's closet or in a bin somewhere or in an auction lot or even on the hanger of a Goodwill, we've all put the work in to actually spend the time finding that item and getting it up online. And that's why even if you pay 50 cents for it, you should get $50 for it. You know?
Right, exactly.
If that's what it's worth,
Right. So we liked that quote. That was a good one.
So our coming week, we have to plan. So now it's Sunday. We have a whole week coming up. First off, we want to thank people for donations that people send in.
Yes.
They are not, it's necessary, but we definitely do appreciate it. And we just want to say that because, it's, people send their heart in, it's money to us, so it's awesome.
Yeah.
And we also appreciate the stories that people send in.
Yes, people have been cool, especially on that open thread, of just being like, I'll tell you about this crazy thing I found. And those are the best. Like, I love being able to hear about other people, because here we are sitting here talking for 2 hours, but what makes this so fun is to hear stories from other people, or else we'd be bored.
Like, we got an email from a father in California, it's this past week, and he says that him and his family are selling on eBay. I mean, he still has a job, but he's got older, teenage kids, And he was telling the story about how they each have like a different category of stuff that they sell. So I'm trying to get them to do an interview with us. Because that's always my dream of, like, if we ever had kids, that's how it would be. It'd be like
it
House
would be.
of Scavengers. So I'd love to get them all together. And we've never done an interview. It's with a group of people, but it'd be interesting just to hear why they like doing it. I mean, the fact that young kids would be excited by this is interesting.
I
mean, with cool
and
kids.
What kind of stuff are they selling? Where are they finding it? What prices are they getting?
Like, what a fun...
Yeah, I think that would be very cool.
But our coming week is just like, I'm going to be photographing more of our backlog,
And I'm listing that stuff.
Yep.
The minute you photograph it, it's getting listed. No, it's not that fast. But yeah, it's quite fast. So that's good.
Because we're here until September, so we have another good 2.5 months of being home.
Yeah.
So we can get a lot done. We have plans to make sure we get all of our winter coats up. We have several piles of winter clothes that we need to get up. It's before September.
Because that stuff sells.
Yep, so people can buy it.
Let's listen to voicemails and answer questions on email. And you can always call us and leave a comment or a question. And the phone number is 540-407-8486. It is a voicemail number we will never pick up. And you have about 3 minutes to leave your question or comment.
Exactly 3 minutes.
Exactly 3 minutes.
Or else did you get cut off?
That's right.
Yes, hi guys. My name is Rhonda. I am brand new to reselling. And my question for you is, how can I connect with other resellers in my Orange County, Southern California area? I appreciate it. Thank you for all of your valuable videos. Take care now.
I mean, that's a good question. I'm not sure how you would find other people willing to work with you. I know, like on our blog, people are trying to organize in their local regions.
Right.
Like there's going to be a meetup in Seattle.
Yeah.
So we're about to play that soon. But you could come to our blog if you want and just post on there that you're in SoCal and you're trying to find people and see if anyone answers,
Yeah, and also, like, you could organize a meetup. Like we said, Seattle's having a meetup in a couple days, and anyone can just call in and leave a voicemail about wanting to do a meetup, and we'll play it, and people can self-organize. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, Dan Massive here from Seattle. Hey, I was wondering if you guys would mind announcing one more time the Seattle meetup, July 15th. Each time you announce it, I pick up 1 or 2 people. We're up to 4 now, which is pretty awesome. And appreciate that. Also, let's see. Oh, after you guys mentioned the vintage Nike shoes, I've never thought of that. I was at Goodwill, and I looked, and here's a pair of vintage Nikes. I paid a lot for them, $10, but they're 1982 AF1s. They're yellow, blue, and red. I've got them in the freezer right now because they smell a little bit like mildew. So I think they're worth between $100 and $200. They're pretty unique and in pretty good shape. And then also wanted to mention I got some free beta tapes at a garage sale last year. Beta in the original shrink wrap, unrecorded, or tapes that you can record on with the beta machine, which preceded the VHS. Got 19 of them for free. Sold them 6 months later, actually about 8 months later, to somebody in Qatar for $95. So I felt like a true scavenger when that happened, and felt like I was keeping a couple things out of the landfill, so that was pretty cool. Anyway, keep up the great work, you guys. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.
So Dan is doing the meetup in Seattle. We will post that info and his email on the blog. So if you're in that area, go to our blog at scavengerlife.com and you can, contact him. And that is cool when you can find something somewhere just like almost in the trash, and then you pull it out and then it goes somewhere around the world.
Yeah, it is crazy. The one thing I did want to mention about the Nikes too is definitely check the prices on those, because I want to say a pair of Nikes from 1982 is going to be worth more than $200. So go look at those listings, price high, be confident.
Or you know what? Try and put it on auction. I would love to hear someone else's experiment. Stick it on auction and see if you get that crazy price war. But,
I've seen Nikes sell for $1,000 a pair. Yeah. So I didn't have those Nikes. I wish I did, but I've seen them sell for that much.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Ryan. My name is Leslie, and I have an international SEO question for you all. So my curiosity is, to attract more global sales, would it behoove us to do our listings in multiple languages? I was just curious because it looks as though when you go onto these international sites, that eBay is doing a really good job of translating the whole site, but it doesn't appear that they're translating our title or our listing. So out of curiosity, I was wondering if you guys ever toyed with doing a listing in multiple languages, or if I dare say it, doing duplicate listings in different languages, and your thoughts on that for SEO purposes. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.
So, like you said, eBay has translator software on a lot of those other sites, and I mean, I don't know how you could like translate your listings into like all these different languages.
And also, English is a pretty common language even overseas. So if people are savvy enough to start buying on eBay, they probably have some semblance of English. But I've noticed in the messages, when we get a message in a different language, there's a button that says translate this. Right. And you can do it. So I think that's what we pay eBay for, to do that. Right. Now, in the early days when we had our store and we had a template, we actually had a thing on a template where we had its different languages. People could click on it and it would automatically translate our template. Yeah, it was some kind of HTML code that I saw in another store, but I never felt like we got more sales because of it. No, not at all. Yeah. I think eBay does a fine job translating it for you, or if people are, not able to have it translated, a lot of times they'll just copy and paste it into Google Translate. I mean, I do that when I send messages to other people sometimes. I think the thing to do to attract global sales is to sell stuff that people overseas want. And what we find is that a lot of overseas people want Americana, stuff that we think is kind of boring and just like junky American junk. They think is like exotic, like the it's like the American dream, like these things, the vintage trucker hat from the local used car salesman. You're like, why would anyone want that? Well, someone in Japan wants it because someone in London puts that on, and it's like the coolest item that anyone has. So to sell more internationally, offer international shipping. That's the best way. Do global shipping program. And people will see it in other countries, because if you don't ship to those countries, they're not going to see it on their eBay site. So that's my advice.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Chris, the dollar flipper. I don't have a question, but I'm calling about combined shipping in the global shipping program. I recently had a buyer who bought 2 pairs of shoes. He was in Singapore, and he was trying to pay for the shipping. He was able to do it by going into his cart and paying for the shipping in there. So in the card, it showed that the shoes were for the same order. So anyway, thanks for the show, and keep up the great work. Bye. So I think, and Chris, I had this happen recently, and I talked about it on blogs. Someone in the UK bought 2 shirts from me through global shipping, and the shipping was combined. I didn't have to do anything. That's totally new. I think eBay is starting to figure out that international buyers who buy through global shipping should be able to put the stuff in the cart, and it calculates the shipping together, and there's not, 2 separate orders, which is very helpful when you're sending stuff to the warehouse in Kentucky. It's not like 2 boxes. Yeah. It's like 1 box, 1 order, 1 person. And I think, things like this are good, because we do see over time that eBay does have slow progress and improvements. Right. That it's not, eBay still seems to have people who have some common sense and logic. They're keeping an eye on how things work. I mean, so it's not all just doom and gloom as maybe you may see on other, like places. On the community forums where eBay is just trying to kill you. Like there actually seem to be improvements, and we see that, so that's good. So I'm hoping this is going to become more common, because I can't tell you how many times people in global shipping program, can you combine this? No, I can't. I don't know how. And it's good to hear from Chris, a flipper, because he's also in the Mid-Atlantic region, so he's like from our part of the country, and he's all about being frugal and paying debt off. So nice. Good to hear from you.
Hi, Jane Ryan. This is M, and enjoyed your show again this week. Love it. I'm just going to rant a bit and try and cope. I have this seller. I sold him something. It did have a defect that I did not see. I apologized profusely many times, gave him a full refund without asking for a return of the item. And then I mentioned that I would have appreciated if he had contacted me directly, as it said in my shipping notice, as opposed to opening the case. And he said basically he had opened the case to teach me a lesson, not to be so careless, and that he hoped I would have learned. And it's just kind of, it was this whole heavy moral judgment on me making a mistake. And I tried not to react to it. I'm trying not to deal with it. And it sort of colors your whole day when a buyer does something like that. And then I remembered something the husband had said. I got a scratch in my car in a parking lot. And he said, that's the urban tax. So I'm trying to view this as the seller tax. You get dicks, and they act like dicks. And it has nothing to do with you. I mean, I did make a mistake, but if he hadn't been a dick, he wouldn't have ruined my whole day. He could have just told me about it. I still would have dealt with it. And I'm just trying to put those things in perspective, and I wonder how you deal with those things. So anyway, Ryan, have a great trip, and it's always fun to see what you buy. I enjoy those videos. They're very educational. Bye.
Okay, so yes, you are correct. Some buyers are very rude, and like I explained with my 2 negative feedbacks, sometimes people don't even contact you and just leave you a negative feedback, and you're like, come on.
Sometimes you just have to be a robot,
Yeah,
you just have to be like, no emotion. This person doesn't know me. Yeah. This person isn't personally attacking me. They're just having some issue in their life,
right?
And I just happen to be in their way.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Return the item. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. But I do hear you Jay and I, a lot of times when we get like weird messages from customers being rude, we're just like, basically we have that shrug of like, okay, buddy, like whatever your problem is not my problem. If I can fix it through an eBay return or a refund, great. If you're gonna be a dick, that's your problem, But I totally hear you. It is really crazy. You're like, thanks, jerk.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Jackie, and I'm from Virginia. I've been listening to your podcast recently and going back through the archived podcasts. And I've got a question for you guys concerning the search engine keywords. I had actually called eBay, I want to say about 3 weeks ago, and had a rep tell me about that. And she had me go into the search engine keywords tab, and she had me change the storefront page to include my keywords. So, for example, Hollywood Regency, things that I have in my store. But I do also see below that all of the different categories in my store, and I see the duplicated line that eBay is throwing in. My concern is if I go in and now break down those categories and put keywords in for each individual category, that might be considered the keyword spamming by the outside search engine, such as Google. So I wondered if anybody else had been given that kind of information about where to first edit your keywords. And I've actually called eBay back, and they told me that it would not be considered keyword spamming, but I'm just not so sure about that. So I don't feel like since I've made the changes that I've seen any difference in my sales on that particular store. So thank you very much if you can help me with that question. And thank you also for your podcast. They're magnificent. Thanks.
So the thing about the keywords is we have a suspicion that the keywords are an old technology that eBay probably is not really, using anymore. We did go in and change our keywords. I don't know if it did anything. It's one of those things where you're like, is this a part of eBay that's just not even being used anymore? Should I care?
Yeah, I mean, look, we are not SEO people. Like, that's not really our thing, our strength. So instead of us worrying about like that kind of thing, all we do is we focus on listing. Like, we don't put any time into the SEO stuff, only in the sense of when we do list, we just try to make sure we have good descriptive, true words in our, in our titles. So that's what we work on, and that's what seems to make sense. We don't really know about like how you kind of get into the back rooms of eBay and like figure out how to like put in all these special words that then are going to pop us up on the front page. We just assume if someone needs like a 1950s solid glass cut crystal tumbler to drink their, whiskey out of in their bar, that they're going to find us because, those are more uncommon items, and we take good pictures,
right?
And people will buy from us.
Right.
That's what we think. If we were selling iPhone cases, just like 30,000 other people are on eBay, then I'd be more worried about like trying to get the SEO right, because you're competing against so many people selling the exact same item that comes out of the exact same Chinese warehouse. Like, then you need to figure out how to become like top rated or whatever.
Right. So our advice is don't worry about it.
Hey Jay and Ryan, this is John from Pennsylvania. I was just wondering if you guys ever thought of opening a Patreon account. Patreon account online is a way to get donations for podcasters where people donate a set amount per episode released. I just think it'd be a way for you guys to generate some extra revenue to support the podcast, and it's something I'd be interested in. Keep up the good work.
So I had never heard of Patreon before. I've heard of Flatter, which is another kind of like thing for podcasters and stuff. But really, like, if people want to give us a donation or give us a tip, we don't want to charge for our content. Like, I'm not going to charge you guys $1 a podcast to download this, which I know Patreon is not like. But if people want to throw us a tip, we have a tip jar. Go for it. But
yeah,
that's how we do it.
But we do appreciate the advice or the suggestion of like a new technology. We always like to see these new services.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good that and Flatter and any kind of donation system exists, because I think you should pay for content for independent creators, certainly. But we have a donation system.
Yep.
It works for us.
And you know what? We get paid by participation.
That's right. No, that's very true. I totally agree with that.
Hey, Jay. Hey, Ryan. This is Mike from Fremont. This is my second time calling you guys, and I have a question for you. Recently, I came across some artwork at a thrift store. I do quite often, but I never know anything about it. And I found a few things and I purchased them, but I don't know how to go about getting a value on them. I can find similar things on eBay, but I can't find the exact thing. So I'm wondering what you guys do. Do you use an appraiser? I know there's several ones that are online on the internet, or do you go somewhere locally? And if so, is there like a set amount that you pay, or I'm just not sure how to go about this. I'd like to get into the art scene, but just not sure. So if you can answer my question, that would be awesome, and thanks for all you guys do. All right, bye-bye.
So yeah, we do not use appraisers or anything like that. Now, when we started first selling art, we actually took one of our pieces of art that we thought might be worth a whole lot of money. We took it to kind of an appraiser. It was an auction house that specialized in art, and you know what we found? This guy went to his desk, went online, and just started doing Google searches. I mean,
that is exactly what he did. Oh, this artist didn't come up on Google. I'm like, what are you, really?
So, and we also sometimes get those items where like the exact item is not online.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
So there's not an exact correlation of how much is going to be worth. But you know what? We can always get at least a ballpark.
Yeah.
An idea.
A style. You're looking at the style.
You know, there's like a name. So like this brand in another kind of object sells like this. I mean, you get enough. And then what we do is we just put a high price on it.
Right.
With make offer. And then just sees what happens.
I mean, there have been times with artwork in particular where I'm like, this isn't signed. There's nothing. There's no date. But, you know, I want this much for it. I'm putting this price on it with make an offer. I just name my price.
And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Like I think there's this one piece of art we have. It's got this beautiful frame. It's that like Polynesian.
Oh, yes.
Lady. It's a beautiful painting.
It's awesome.
It's not signed, but it's definitely just
mid-century,
gorgeous.
like tiki.
You know, how do you price that? Well, we put $1,200 on it with make offer, and it's been up for probably 8 months, and we haven't got any offers. So maybe it's too high. You know, we'll see. You know,
but there have been other pieces of art. I had this like op art piece from like the 60s. I think it was dated 1969. Gorgeous painting, very small painting, like, you know, 10
amateur artist,
not a known artist. You know, 10 by 12 little piece, gorgeous. I wish I had kept it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that's such a cool piece. Sold it for $120 overnight.
Right.
You know, I just put the price on
it. Right. I mean, so I think the question comes from, I know that it's feeling of just like you're afraid to put something up and undervalue it, and you're going to sell it for less than it's worth, and someone's going to take advantage of you and make $1 million, and you I get it, but at some point you just have to make a choice. I mean, if you've never been to like an appraiser, I mean, try it.
Yeah,
you know?
Try it.
But you know, often they want to charge you. They say they can't guarantee the price they tell you. Very often they're just coming off the same, you know, sources that you find. So really it's more about learning to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And really the internet is like this huge big brain full of large memories, and that's the best appraiser you can go to.
And the other thing too is if you have a certain artwork, I mean, take your time researching it. Don't be like, I gotta research this in 1 hour. It's like, okay, if you really think this thing is super special, take some time, do some different methods, take it to an appraiser. If you don't like their answer, do some more research. Like, every time I've been to an appraiser, I have not been happy. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
I can hear the voices of people on the blog in my head right now. And what they're saying is also there are forums. There's so many specialty forums online for all kinds of different items. And if you just join one, I mean, people will say, I just joined this forum so I could ask
this question.
You know, it's forums about paint by numbers and purses and all kinds
there
of things.
There are people on Reddit who like specialize in like random, you know, like, I don't know what this is. And can anyone tell me?
Very often these people just want to give you free info.
Yeah.
Just because they're passionate about these certain kind of items.
Right.
And they're proud of the knowledge that they have about the history and style of certain things.
Yep.
So.
I've put some stuff on those Reddit forums, like the What Is It forum. I never thought anyone would be able to answer, and someone's like, oh, looks like one of these. I'm like, how did you know that? Right. You know, it's so cool.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. My name's Will. I go by Terminal 99 on eBay and YouTube. I wanted to share how I price my items for sale. I know there's been some discussion about the Nike shoes you guys sold for $300 that went right away. I ran into the same problem. Some of the things selling as soon as I listed them. What I do now is that everything I list on eBay goes on for a 5-day auction, and the starting price is what I want to get for the item. If it doesn't sell at auction, I just convert the listing to a buy it now with good till canceled. With this method of listing, there's really no downside. If it doesn't get a bid, it's no problem. If it gets one bid, that's good. If the item gets more than one bid, that's great. Most of the time, things go off without a bid. Every once in a while, though, listing will take off and make it really worthwhile. I have over 6,300 items on eBay right now. I've used this method on just about all of them. I've been selling on eBay since 1996, but there's always something new to learn. And the more you know, the more money you're going to make. Thanks for your podcast. It's a great source of knowledge. Bye.
So yeah, Terminal 99, hello. I remember you, I think you were commenting on our YouTube videos for a while until we
shut it down.
We stopped doing that. But yeah, no, that's, it sounds like you got a good business going with that many items. I mean, geez, that's good for you.
Yeah.
And you know what? If a method works by putting everything on auction and then putting it on buy it now works, then that's cool.
Yeah.
For us, it's all about manageability. So we just don't feel like it would work in our workflow to have all these auctions, figure out what doesn't sell, then list them. Also, if your item sells in an auction, the fee to put it into an auction is free. But if it doesn't sell, you get charged for that auction. So I'm thinking if you have that many items, you have some fees. But I guess that probably wouldn't be that much.
It might even out, yeah.
Maybe it's $100 a month. I don't know. But I guess just again for us, just I would want to hear from you. Like if you put up 100 auctions, how many of those 100 turns into a bidding war that's actually really exciting and an item sells for so much more than you could have ever imagined? For us, that percentage was always too low. We just find we know the price for most of this stuff. We put it up in every single item. We get the maximum value we can at buy it now with make offer versus putting things at auction and getting just the opening bid.
And I mean, that's just what works for us. It's what makes sense. It's what we like to do. Everybody has a different way, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's whatever amount is in your bank account and pays your bills and makes you happy.
Whatever amount is in your account.
That's right. All right, that's it for It's This Week. I'm glad to have Ryan back and glad to...
Yay, I like to be back.
So you can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com. This is where, if you're hearing this through iTunes, this is where people talk about stuff after you hear this.
Yes. Actually, a lot of people leave comments before they listen to the podcast, too. They're very eager to leave comments, so that's great.
I'm happy to read them.
Me too.
We post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning. Wednesday, Ryan will post what sells
video. Yes.
These are not haul videos. We show you the things we talk about that actually have sold for actual
that
money.
I'm about to pack and ship.
And now Friday, we're going to do this kind of like an open thread, just where if you're interested in just kind of hanging out, we'll be talking on the blog on Fridays.
That's fun. If you want to call in, if you have a question or a comment, the voicemail phone number is 540-407-8486.
And also, if you want to call and if you have something you want to share with people about little tips. Some people on the blog are we need to always be teaching it's new people. Cool, step up, say something if you want to teach a new person about some.
Yeah, that's what the voicemail's for. You can just call in.
You can subscribe to us through iTunes or through YouTube. Choose your technology. And if you want, you can rent our vacation farmhouse. We will post a link to that on our blog if you want to check it out.
Yes.
And if you want to come, we'll even have dinner.
You say that every time.
If you cook.
That makes me laugh every time. It's funny. Okay, we are ending this very long podcast in 3, 2, 1, 0.
Bye.